Hello. I want to talk on to the points from yesterday, and I woke up again thinking about this in depth, as I always do every single day. I wake up talking to people, I wake up giving lectures in my head, yeah. And I don't know why, but it is doing this automatically by default. That's how my brain works. And the reason why I talk to people on the internet, the reason why I engage into discussions, and the reason why I take a lot of time to write to people long emails and long, almost like elaborations, like almost research papers, because I am very, very, very committed to helping people understand and to making the world a better place. This is my commitment as the mother of all beings, as one activist out of almost 8 billion humans. One person who is trying hard, and that word is probably wrong, but I give my all. That's all I can say. I'm giving every effort there is inside of my existence, my being. I give my all, and I make people mad, and they are ungrateful to me because they don't see the effort I put into it. They don't recognize it. They only feel hurt because I am challenging their world views, whether that is fundamentalist Christians or Muslims or many, many, many different type of subgroups, and or Buddhists or Dorji Shukden or Dalai Lama followers, or whatever people are doing, or followers of Krakatoa. I don't know what it. I mean, there are so many different sects and sectations and groups and followerships and cults and subcults and subcults and side cults and upper, lower, right or left, and like there is it's absolutely completely confusing and overwhelming how many different religions there are, and what is the religion? Where does it start? There are gurus on YouTube. Some of them are just YouTube gurus alone. And then people follow a certain person, and then they group themselves into a specific group, and we got a religion started. Okay. The second someone follows someone else, you got basically that is the beginning of a religion. My question is, do we want that? And I want you to answer that question to yourselves. I'm talking to all people here. Obviously, I have some free-minded friends, okay? But I'm talking to all the other people in this regard. All the other people who have this incessant need to hide themselves behind a sectation, behind a guru, behind could be a dead guru, that makes things always like, that puts things like light years further into the religion realm. It's always once a guru is dead, then things really take on. on a different dimension with it. So then they're really deep into the religion path. So it's like the dead Jesus, now we have to, he died for our sins, baby. It's that kind of stuff. And don't think that your religion is any different. Okay? Don't think that your deceased guru is any different than that. Has been made into any different type of situation. I don't know what these people all are. I don't think anyone knows what Jesus was like, or the Buddha, or Muhammad, what these people really were like. No one really knows that. There are so many different stories, and some people say that maybe they haven't even existed, they're just made up, or maybe there are figures that have no resemblance to the stories that are told today. So question these things, people. Don't hide behind this or that, and don't hide behind a guru that's still alive either. Don't hide behind Terence McKenna. Believe it or not, Terence McKenna has been made into religion. I talk to these people. That's why I know. For anyone who doesn't know who Terence McKenna is, he was one of the LSD, mushroom, psilocybin pioneers, okay? And he was back in the 60s, and he was experimenting, and he was also doing research on it. Very good friend of Rupert Sheldrake. I think Sheldrake also partied along, but I don't know. Sheldrake has gone into a different direction from there on, so into a very serious inquiring, and also from the mindset of sobriety, because in my view you cannot go into inquiring from a mindset of an altered neurological state. That's all interesting, maybe, and maybe these people have a lot to contribute to society, and I listen to them all. It's very interesting, but in my personal opinion, it is not a wise thing to do to alter your brain with substances, because for many different reasons, health reasons, and also the health of others. You can endanger someone if you are on a bad trip and you fall on someone. It's not a good idea. So, but fall on someone physically is probably the least of my worries. But out of this altered state that a lot of people aren't ready to be in the first place. That's why their normal sobriety state isn't going there, because they are obviously not ready. So then they induce this state, and then something can go really go sideways, and a lot of people end up in psychiatric institutions. A lot of people on SSI, they cannot take care of themselves. I know a lot of those people, so I have friends who are like this. I feel very sorry for them. They cannot function anymore at all. My brain is already kind of like in that way, because I already see a lot more than I can handle. And so I'm constantly in this over flooding. There's a flooding of information constantly. I see all kinds of things, always, as a child too. I always see way more dimensions and I see energies around people. I see that their energies and their cravings are not congruent with their pseudo behavior. So that's this particularly, this double standard type of thing has scared me a whole lot as a child. So I always saw the discrepancy between people's inner state and their attempts of behavior on the outside. Very scary. It's like going through the city with my mother, going shopping for shoes or something. I would cling to my mother's winter coat, hide behind her because of all of these eyes that walk by. Eyes, and I felt like these eyes were staring at me. They were probably not directly staring at me, but what the reason why it appeared that way is because I saw their energies that were hungry ghost energies, and hungry ghost energies come across to me as eyes, like eyes that are in despair, eyes that are completely lost, out of control, eyes that are under torture, that are not grounded, not anchored, eyes that don't know who they are and what they want. They're in a state of kragi, needing, wanting, filling voids, a complete state of unknowing and unconsciousness, and a state of frenzy. And I saw that as a child. And of course my mother will say, you're just imagining, you're crazy. Yeah, that is really the worst thing to say to a child when a child says that. That is really the worst. But people do it out of their own egos. They do it because the egos are hurt, or they're scared by what the child says or sees. So they try to belittle it. They try to make it to themselves look like it is just silly and crazy. But it's not. Okay. But when you're not in that state, you cannot induce it. That's very, very dangerous. You can't skip steps in your mental development, of course. So many things that dock onto this again, like thousands of things that are docking onto this in a circle. I could shoot off in thousands of different directions now from here. So, but I want to go back to what I said earlier to Paul, and that's what I wanted to make a video about, is that a lot of people, they want us to be always nice, be nice to the psychopath. There's a psychopath guy who wrote a book, and I found that very courageous. But that guy is obviously not a nice guy. I had an encounter with that guy one time, briefly, on YouTube. There's no way he can jump over his own shadow, obviously. He understands he's a psychopath, so he's already like a couple of light years further ahead in understanding, intelligence, and cognition and awareness. Right there. But then he cannot step over that last hurdle. So he just can't. He's stuck in that mindset of when someone is kind-hearted, he cannot accept that, because then he will feel bad about himself. So when someone is kind-hearted, he will immediately label that as narcissistic behavior or narcissistic disorder, or an NPD, narcissistic personality disorder. So he likes those clinical labels that makes him feel like he's in control of things. There, there's also no such thing as a controlled file that you can put someone in and then you can close that file. You can put maybe a seal on it afterwards and say, okay, now I got this all filed up here in the psychiatric labeling, and we have that all ordered. And I mean, yeah, okay, it is, in order to do research, it is good to try to organize it somewhat, yes, but when it comes down to looking at it from a wider perspective, from a more philosophical perspective, like this perspective here, then all of these labels fall away. And then we have to come back to the real deep questions, and that is, can we, if we are in specific states or personality traps, maybe brain anatomy traps, is it possible, that's what Jiddu Krishnamurti was trying to probe into, is it possible that as the observer, coming from a specific mindset, are we able to be the observer and the observed at the same time? Is it possible to observe ourselves? Is it possible that you can observe yourself, your own behavior pattern? Because if you do, you cannot possibly continue an act out of pawning off your responsibility or whatever went wrong or whatever goes wrong in the world on someone else. You cannot do it anymore, because you are part of that movement. You are part of the very movement that you accuse of as being bad or as being detrimental for the world. Okay? This has to really sink in. This is what I just said. Is it possible that people can do it? Is it possible that you do it? Not just try, but do it. Become very serious about it. Become very serious. Do it. Observe yourselves. See what you're doing. Okay? See all of it. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of the truth. See it all. And then things will gradually become better. I just not sit here. Observe it all. Don't shy away from it. And things will gradually heal. They cannot heal as long as you hide behind a religion. And it doesn't matter whether it is a religion that cuts people's heads off, puts women in chadors, or barbecues pigs with country western music playing in the background. I don't care. This is all equally obnoxious. It's all equally disgusting and insane. And it's usually those people who will say, you are insane. Oh no, I get it now. You have been abused. That's why you are against us. That's why you're so difficult, because, oh, I see, that's why you're argumentative, because you've been abused. Oh, it's a case of pathology. Let's just dismiss everything she said. See, be careful. Be very careful about this. Yeah, I'm not threatening you. All I'm saying, be careful, because the truth will nip you in the butt, not me. The truth itself will nip you in the butt with it. You set your own foot with this trap, with this ego behavior trap. It's an ego reaction. Oh, she has mental illness. You have never revealed yours to me. I'm an open book, okay? I've given you my cards. You choose to use those cards against me, so that you can brainwash, clean wash yourself from the responsibility of introspection. Because it's a lot easier. And when I say you, I mean hundreds of people who I have dealt with in my life. Not just one person. Some of them are female, some of them are male, some of them are very personal people, very personally related. Some of them are more remote. But what they all have in common is they want to clean wash themselves from that urgent necessity of introspection. They want to accuse the accuser as Satan. You know, Satan comes from Hebrew, means the accuser. Okay, so the accuser has never been welcomed, because the accuser is the one who sees, who points out. And this brings me to the very subject I want to talk about today, and that is that you have to tell your child, and Jiddu Krishnamurti is also talking about this in depth. And I am not mentioning his name as my guru reference, okay? Because I know this also myself. I know this from the bottom of my own existence. It's not something I'm just repeating. I have explored this for myself. But for anyone out there who has followed Jiddu Krishnamurti, listen to what he says. Listen to his words. Listen to it. Get into it, you know. So, and there are other people talk about this as well. It's very important, you know. We have a responsibility, you know, before a psychopath guy who's famous says that you do-gooder or whatever. You have narcissistic personality disorder. That's what your problem is. You're pathological. I don't need to listen to you. Okay, this is the kind of mechanism that I'm trying to point out. But it is the do-gooder, the accuser. You know, a do-gooder is also an accuser. You cannot do good and look the other way. Albert Einstein has said that. He said, if you are an observer of a crime and you choose to ignore this situation and walk away and act as if nothing happened, you make yourself a criminal as well. Because he has seen it in Nazi Germany. He has lived through it. He personally lived through this. He has seen it. And in his whole life, there was only one single person among all the scientists even. One single person. He himself was in Austria, and this one single scientist friend he had in England who agreed with him on this and who saw it too. And they met and they talked about this for years. I'm glad they even found each other to talk about this. Can you imagine? You are completely alone. in seeing the truth and no one else is willing to see the truth, that feels pretty darn bleak. And my husband and I, we can relate to that totally. And that's why we're together. Okay? We are allies. We are allies of truth seeing. And it's not fun. It is definitely not. It's not candy eating experience to see the truth the way it is, the raw truth, the rawness of all of it, of humanity, what humanity does to itself. But like a caring parent, you don't look the other way. When you see your child is on the wrong path, you say, look, what you did here to this or that person, being, this was not right. Let me use an example. I used to live with this lady Linda a long time ago. She had a little son, about 3 years old. And they had 2 cats. And this little son was playing with toy guns. She always bought him loads and loads of toy guns. He wanted to be like the Men in Black in that movie. He's seen that movie about 20 times already at age 2 or 3. And yeah, I mean, I don't even want to go into that subject yet, but just explaining, this violence and all of this. So then he shoots, he acts like he's shooting with his toy gun. At least there was nothing coming out of it. But he acts like he's shooting at the cats with his toy gun. Over and over and over. And he had a blast laughing and all of this. And Linda laughed about that. What is she doing in the moment she's laughing when he's shooting or play shooting at the cats? What is she doing? I'll let you answer that question to yourself. She's encouraging him, okay? And I saw this was this pattern like going on and on. I lived there for several months. I finally had to move out. I couldn't stand it anymore. And I was, of course, the one who protected the cats and who told them to take the cats to the vet when they had worms and all of this. And I tried my very best to educate them on their needs. And I hope that they listened to me, I think they did to some degree, and her boyfriend, the father of the child as well. So anyway, this is just one example. When a child, for example, in the case of Linda and baby Danny, baby Danny takes a toy gun, points it at the cat. What does the mother do who cares? She says, baby Danny, she takes baby Danny in her arms and she says, baby Danny, don't shoot at those kitties. Those kitties are your friends. And she should explain to him. She should explain that they feel exactly the same emotions that he feels. There's no difference between him and the kitty friends. The same thing. They're sentient beings. They're our brothers and sisters, cousins. No difference. That's what mother should do if she really cares about the cats and her son. And if she sees it from a broader perspective, if she sees it from the compassion realm, every single person counts in this. Every single one of you counts in moving towards making the world a better and safer place for all. You don't give your child a toy gun. You don't give your child weapons to play with. You don't give your child a movie that contains violence. Okay? We are bombarded in a society of Hollywood and action movies and violence and guns. It's like this is what people call entertainment. It's a war exercise in the brain. That's what it does. And the weapon industry, of course they have a shoe in Hollywood. They have their one shoe in the door, okay? At least one, if not two, if not four, if not 100. So it is those are advertisements for war, and people just take it as if it is cotton candy or something. That's like, oh, it's just, they don't think about it for 1 second what this is all about. Even Star Wars, the name already, it is always about machine guns. It's always about, and every one of these sci-fi films, it's always, and I'm a fan of sci-fi, but not of war sci-fi. It's always about the violence. At least we have The Outer Limits and The Twilight Zone. Those were individual filmmaking. Many of those had a lot, not all of them, of course. Some of them come directly from an agenda, and you see which one. But most of the Twilight Zone and Outer Limit films are what I would call independent film, and they had something to say. They were not bought by Lockheed Martin. They were not bought by the Christian Church or the Jehovah's Witness conglomeration or the Mormons or any of these other agendas that are out there. So they wanted people to start thinking and asking questions. A film that gets you to think is an independent film. Okay, it's a smart film. That's what I recommend to people. Go with smart films. There aren't very many. Obviously, there aren't very many. But my recommendation is, rule of thumb, don't watch violence anymore. Just don't do it. Or watch anything else, even porn. Don't bombard your children with that. But if you're an adult, if you watch a porno film that is about gentleness, it's wonderful, it's cool. There's nothing to be ashamed about. You can, if you watch that all day long, even as long as it's about gentleness and kindness and mutual respect, then it's all fine. If you want to watch an intellectual film, as long as it is about kindness, gentleness, and mutual respect, it's all cool. If it's an artistic film, as long as it is about mutual respect, kindness, and love and respect for all beings. So that is basically what I try to tell people. Pay attention to these things. It's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to discern. To say, no, I'm done with violence. Give me something else. Give me love. Give me whatever film genre. Love, romance, comedy, sex, music, whatever. But with the basal continuum of respect for all beings, love, kindness, gentleness. Okay. No force. No forceful sounds. No rape sounds. I watch porn sometimes, obviously. And I like animation because people use a lot more gentleness, and I see some new people that are getting into gentleness, and so I think that's very beautiful. But then I see sometimes in between, I see then again the violence put into it, and as if they think that people really dig it or something. Or maybe a lot of people dig it. But you know why? It's because out of an extreme neurosis. So we need to move away from violence. Away. We need to move towards gentleness. Very important. When you see your child do something violent, educate him in a peaceful way that his behavior was wrong and explain why. Don't punish your child. Explain to him why. Explain that they are all like him. The cats, the dogs, his brother, baby brother, or whatever. Or his mother. Some kids are violent with their own mothers. I've seen that. They would hit their mothers on the head, and then the mothers would even allow them to do it. Okay, that's not the right approach. If you love your friend or child, you educate them, you show them if they are on the wrong path. You have to. You do it for them, you do it for you, you do it for the greater good. You have to. That's your responsibility. And the same applies to society in general. When I see people are on the wrong track, my love for them demands it that I say something and not look the other way. Okay? And I want to get this message across to other people to do this approach. Don't look the other way when you see that things are on the wrong path, whether it's one person doing something wrong or many, or the entire society on earth. You cannot look the other way. You can't say, oh, this is normal, or I need to protect myself because I have a clientele. I don't want to lose my customers. So the moment you say, I don't want to lose my customers, I better stay neutral, and not say neutral means you look the other way, you hold the other cheek. That's a Lutheran slave moralist type of perspective. Don't do it. Don't go that route. As a loving, responsible person on earth, you have to take the lead, and you have to point these things out to people. You have to say, this is going in the wrong direction. This is going in the direction of Adolf Hitler and Kim Jong-un, or ISIS. This is going drastically in the wrong direction. We need to bring it back to balance. Do anything you can to bring this back to balance. And it starts with you, okay? So take care, bye.